Hey everybody, Pat Kilner here and John Kirk. John, welcome. Good to see you.
Hey Pat, good to see you as usual.
Yes, well, I mean, it's been a while. We used to do this on Facebook Live, and somebody recently said, "When are you guys going to get back to doing that?" And so we said, maybe we should consider that. So because we have so much time here in the spring market, I thought, you've got nothing better to do than sit down with me and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you
but
saying people missed us?
I find it really hard to believe. So
I think our moms missed us maybe.
yeah, right. Thanks, Mom, for watching. Um, but I want to talk. What we thought we would do, folks, is there's a lot of activity going on in the spring market. So in this beginning of this new series that we're bringing out to you, is we're going to take different markets that we're doing a lot of business in, that we're seeing a lot of supply and demand in, and bringing those to you so you can understand those markets. This week we're going to start with real estate in Vienna, Virginia. And so, John, I know you've been listing. You've got a few things coming up right around Vienna, McLean, Oakton as well, and you've been studying all of these markets. Talk to us about Vienna. What are you seeing year over year, the change? Because there's been a big change in the marketplace from where we were this time last year. What are you seeing in the Vienna market?
Yeah, the biggest change really is your average sales price for detached properties. And as you look at year over year stats in March, which is the latest full month that we have, your average sales price is up $200,000, which is kind of insane. There's also less inventory to buy, right? So that's really interesting to me. I mean, you've got quite an increase there, and across the whole area, you're seeing that sort of similar price increase. And you sit down with people and you say, well, up until last year, you could sell your house for X price, but now you can sell it for this price, right? And I think as the spring goes on, you're going to start to see that gap it's going to widen even more.
Yeah, what's kind of amazing about this is that this time last year, March last year, was before rates started to rise.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw sort of a stalling of the market in the final 6 months of 2022. Even so, as we roar into 2023, it's been just an absolute return to the same level, if not greater demand than we had this time last year. In 2022, we were saying we've never seen demand like this. So I know you're seeing this on a lot of your listings. Talk about, just anecdotally, what's the pace of the market like? I mean, you're selling all over DC, Maryland, Virginia right now. What's the pace of the market feel like to you, and what does that mean for buyers and sellers?
Yeah, I think the pace of the market is actually it's really interesting because at different price points, it may be a little bit different. But I would say overall the demand is out there, and it's really showing up. Like our open houses, Pat, have been crazy. I mean, we've had midweek open houses with 40 groups of people in them, right? And these are crazy numbers, right? We tell an anecdote.
Be serious about seeing that house when they come, on a Wednesday or a Thursday to see.
Yeah, and we had one on Tuesday, last week, and Tuesday evening we had 20 groups of people in an open house, right? And so that will show you right away, like if someone's coming out in the middle of the week when they otherwise could be going home, and they're coming to an open house to see a property. I mean, that tells you right away that there's a lot of demand in the market. What I am experiencing too, to some degree on multiple listings, is people who it's really interesting to see. You have folks who are absolutely ready to compete, and they're like ready to do anything to acquire a property, literally. And then you also have the opposite end of the spectrum of folks who say, I don't want to compete. And so it's a really interesting dynamic to see. And I think like what it's doing, this kind of demand, what happens with this kind of demand is that it actually sort of forces out sort of the people who are ready to roll, right? If you're not prepared, you don't have a lender letter, or if you're looking at the top of your price point, right? This is something we talk about a lot, like especially with our buyers. If they're looking at the top of their price point, and that house that I'm selling is at the top of their price point, they're not able to compete, right? So what we've had to kind of do a lot with our purchasers as well is kind of reframe how they're thinking about looking for inventory. So maybe you're looking for something that is not at the top of your price point. You're looking for something that's below that, so that when you're in a competitive situation, you can go and you can compete and win there. So that's, kind of a nutshell.
Well, speaking of winning and how to compete, one of the things I want to talk about today is lending. So we have a lot of folks who come to us, refer to us, and they've got a relationship with a bank. Some of those are local banks, some of those are big national banks. And one of the things we'll always ask them is, do you have a relationship with someone at a bank who you implicitly trust to be lights out for you? And a lot of people don't know what that means. So I'd love for you to touch on, what is the difference that you see as a listing when we have a listing and you're vetting out someone who's coming to you with a local lender who only does mortgages versus a mortgage outfit at a big national brand? What are some of the differences you're seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I talk about really is access. So you could have a big bank, and that big bank could be really great. It's typical, though, when you have a bigger bank, it takes a while to gain access to talk to the person who's actually doing the loan. And that is problematic when you're trying to get a ratified contract, for example. Like, we wouldn't ratify any listing without talking to the lender first.
Right.
And understand that is about the most important thing that we could do to help you, as a listing client, to help you actually land a deal that's going to settle. Finding out who the lender is and how they approve the buyer is really, really important. So for us, I mean, we need to really take, good care of that. But we need to, when you're working with a big bank, it's sometimes very difficult to track lender guys who are doing the approvals. With a local bank, that they kind of like understand that really, really well. I have a lot of really good local lenders that we work with. And then I'm also getting calls from lenders directly who are local saying, "Hey, John, we just submitted this offer. I've been working with this family for, so long, and all these things." Like, that's the relationship there. To your point earlier, if there's a relationship there between the buyer and the lender, that is the best thing that we could have. Because the lender will often say to me, "Look, I've done 3 transactions with this family. I know their file inside and out." So to have that local scenario is really, really a good thing, rather than press 9 for more options,
right,
and then get rerouted to Minnesota.
Same person. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. And I guess what you're also saying implicit to that, to my ear, is that local banks typically can get things done quicker. So your contingency timeframes, if you're going to have them, are going to typically be shorter versus dealing with a larger bank.
yeah, and depending on the loan product too. And by the way, there's something called a broker who could be involved in a lending process as well, right? You could have a broker who's working with you as a client, but has access to 5 or 6 different banks that they're going to shop rates to. I think in theory, that sounds like a really great win for a client, but I think it adds layers, potentially, not in every case, maybe, but potentially that adds layers of, delays potentially, that can work out. But, I think overall, having a good, strong local lender is really key to winning deals for sure.
Great. Okay. So it's baseball season now. Opening day was just, beginning of the month, end of last month. I guess March 31st or so.
Yeah, right about there. Yeah.
Who's going to win? Who's your pick here?
Of course, I'm partial to the Phillies. I'm partial to the Phillies, but I got to tell you, they're not doing really well right now. So
who's going to win?
As long as it's not the Mets, is really the thing. And we have some good clients who happen to be family for you too, but we won't mention
not anymore.
But So if it's not the Mets, anybody but the Mets is what I would say. Anybody else out there would be fine. There's a number of good teams. I mean, again, I'm partial to the Phillies, but we've been absent Bryce Harper, who's a product of the Washington Nationals, as everybody knows, and I would say the Nationals are not going to make it either. But it's tough to pick a winner. I mean, especially this time of the year, because it's such a long season.
Yeah.
And so much can happen. I think in the Phillies example, I mean, they actually started out pretty poorly last year, and they went all the way to the World Series because of different things that happened. So tough to handicap that right now, but I'm partial to the Phillies.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. Okay, listen, thanks for joining me, John. Maybe we'll do this next week. Who knows? Maybe our moms will watch as well. Great.
These are fun.
Yeah, always. By the way, folks, if you haven't used our Blueprint tool, this is a tool that just helps you really find your real estate personality and have some fun with it. I mean, even if you're not looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate anytime in the near future, this is a great date night tool. So you can go online, have some fun on our site, kilnerkirk.com/blueprint. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week. Thanks, John, again.
All right.